Good evening, New York City and my listeners around the world. This is your host, Elizabeth Tripp. We are live here in Manhattan recording another edition of Luminous Life podcast. For those of you who have been tuning in, it's episode 3. We had a fantastic show last week. We had an amazing guest talking about relaxing into being. And now we are going to be talking about decision time. It's a solo podcast. I'm going to be hosting the entire show and really bringing you guys on this discovery journey where we're going to be looking more closely at parts of ourselves that have not been shining brightly, that have not been illuminating out into the world. And we're going to be looking at how these parts of ourselves have been holding us back from really being the best version of ourselves, really showing up in an authentic and true way and keeping our wants and desires out of reach. It's really fascinating the tales that I'll be bringing you on and using storytelling as this way to allow each of you to be a part of the journeys that I've experienced or my guests have experienced, to see something common in our story, to see where in your current life you're actually experiencing something similar, and that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. There's actually a light that is so bright and so beautiful and so limitless that already resides within you. So that is really what luminous life is about. And taking these, tales of trepidation and really blending it with the wisdom of the universe. One of the most beautiful things that I love sharing is my ability to be able to really deeply connect with spirit and bring spirit into conversation and allow myself to be just a free flowing channel of information. And so I designed the podcast so that you can explore the deeper meaning of life. Really, why we're here, what we're doing, and what is this all for? And our obstacles and challenges, are they just here to make us struggle, to really bring us suffering? Or is there something more that we can be offered in these situations? Is there something more that we can actually get for ourselves? And it's so beautiful because I've witnessed this in my private practice as a life activator and luminary and real light worker. I've witnessed as I've brought in my, very unique and special gifts to my clients, the ability to bring spirit into conversation and invite the universe to be a part of our sessions, that clients begin to rediscover this very brilliant, bright light within themselves. And so easily and effortlessly began to unearth the limitations that they have set on themselves and truly start to sink into the beauty of the here and now. And that's where you live luminously. That's where life becomes luminous, is when you can move through what limits you from actually being present and aware of yourself fully and wholly and without any limitation. Because that's who we are in our full essence. We are spiritual beings living in a human experience. And in our human experience, we have conditions that we often set on ourselves to being happy and to being successful and to being in the relationship we want and to being in our purpose, correct? When really all we need to do is get to the bottom of why we are feeling misaligned from the true qualities of who we really are, which in essence, that I'm speaking of, is light, love, power, joy, eternal happiness, infinite, infinite amount of beauty. That's who we are as souls that are birthed from a higher source, as children of the universe, as, you know, creatures of light or beings of light. So I invite you all, if you're tuning in, to take a listen to my live YouTube channel. I go live on Wednesdays, just about at 7 o'clock. Sometimes it might change, give or take, and depending on the week, but most of the time I'm live at 7. And the way that you can visit me is to actually check out bit.ly Luminous Life podcast. And there you can come along with me on a live journey. And also, you can listen to previously recorded podcasts. And it's a way for you to just come along with the journey on me in a more intimate level. You can see me talking with you, and it can feel like we're actually together on this journey. And of course, if you can't make the live and you are definitely one of those people who like to walk and listen to things, then or ride the train and listen to the podcast, or, on your way on the airplane to visiting, a friend or family member, or just leisure travel, check us out, Luminous Life, on iTunes. You can find us on Stitcher, Spotify, Tuned In, Podbean, all the major platforms. We're up and running and episodes are releasing. And I invite you, I really call you to take action to share with me what you are getting from my shows. It's so important that I know what my listeners are thinking of each episode that I air. So I invite you to do that, share a review, subscribe, become a listener of the show, because I guarantee you're going to get a lot out of these programs. So let's welcome everyone to tonight's show. Thank you so much for the listeners. Thank you so much for everyone who has joined me. Your presence is what excites me and, brings me out every week to share these messages. And it's such an extraordinary experience for me. A dream that I really had when I was, very little, 7 years old. And when I was given my first microphone by my parents, and I love standing up on the table and sharing my voice, and whether it was singing or telling a story or just simply getting people's attention, that has been such a memory for me. And so to be able to be here and do what I'm doing and really love it, and have people show up and experience this with me and love it too, I couldn't think of another thing in my life that could bring me more joy. So I want to send all of you gratitude for your listenership and for you showing up and being a part of the journey. Really, really, really means a lot to me. So on that note, let's get traveling into tonight's show. I thought it would be very fitting to talk about decision making. It's something that we are called to do every single day. Every day. There's like no escaping it. You can hear the alarm buzzing when you wake up, and you have a choice, either to turn it off or to get up. You have the choice to lay in bed or to get out and brush your teeth, take a shower, and head off to work. And you have the choice to actually stop and get a tea or coffee and something to eat, or to skip it all together. You then have the choice to ride the subway, hop in your car, or maybe you take a walk. You have choice to go left or right, or in that direction or another. We are always being offered, almost unlimitedly, the decisions to make choices for ourselves, to decide what direction we want to go in, and where and how and with who. We've been given this freedom. And no matter where we go, we can decide how we want to live our life. The blessing of living in this country, too, is that that beauty becomes magnified because every being has been given the ability to choose. We all have free will, yet sometimes our circumstances in which we were born into, whether in different countries, limits us from the amount of choice we can actually make. So it's good to highlight that here in our country, we are given such unlimited choice. We really, really are. And to exercise that power is so beautiful. And to be able to be grateful for that power even makes it more beautiful. So it's something to plant inside of our heads. But the thing is that I've noticed what I've come up against and what I've seen time and time again in my clients is this power, this freedom that we have to choose. Actually, we struggle with decision making, and we struggle with choices. It's as though we've been given an unlimited supply, like in our physical reality, that we start to get totally stressed out and completely consumed with making a choice. And it's funny. It's like I see a lot of people struggling with this sometimes with the small stuff, and the small level, we're talking like what deodorant to pick out and where, or what toothpaste to brush your teeth with, or whether to buy apples or oranges. I see some people struggling with that, but oftentimes we're able to make those choices almost automatically just based off of, a programming of, I like this, I don't like that. This is good, this is bad. So that almost is so automatic. But the thing that I see, especially around decision making, is that the big decisions often are the ones that cause people to trip up so much. Like, so much can come up for a human or a person when something like moving or marriage or divorce or switching jobs or having a baby or adopting or maybe even to like getting a pet or to putting a pet to sleep, to handling things like how do you address, infidelity in a relationship, or how do you, make the choice to really speak up at your job. So these bigger decisions, decisions that tend to impact us in larger ways and in much bigger ways than just if you're going to eat a banana or a yogurt or you're going to have oatmeal and some walnuts. So those are the smaller choices. And yet I still do hear a lot of people getting tripped up with them, but not to the magnitude of these bigger choices. So I wanted to focus on looking at decision making from a spiritual level this evening. And when I mean a spiritual level, I mean looking at the decision making process for many people out there, the common paradigm that I see for people, and the impact this paradigm, this decision making process has on themselves, their well being, their family, their friends, and their current life situation. And to empower you guys as listeners to hear the current paradigm and decide for yourself. Yes, I'm going to give you choice, to decide for yourself if that paradigm is working for you. And I'm going to be sharing a shorter story that highlights a time period in my life where I was working out of this paradigm and it was causing a tremendous level of stress for me and a lot of pain for me and a lot of pain for the people around me. And I wasn't aware that there could be a new way of viewing decisions and a new way of looking at them. So I thought, why not share this with my listeners? Because everybody gets offered big decision. I mean, it's just a part of life. It's part of transitioning and maturing. We decide where we're going to go to college. We decide if we're going to go to college. We decide where our first job is and or where it won't be. So there's so much that can come and rise up as a result. And I wanted to talk about this decision making process because interestingly, a lot of people are delaying a lot of things in their life based on the fact that so much comes up for them when faced with these big choices that they start to feel completely stressed. And I've heard a lot of, I feel paralyzed. I feel like I can't move. I feel so terrified in one direction or another that I absolutely have no idea what to do. And so I wanted to explore more deeply the impact that that has on ourselves and the course of our life and how it can keep us in a delayed state where it keeps us more stuck in what we don't want rather than what we do, as well as the broader impacts on people whom this decision has a direct correlation with or a direct association with, so whether that be friends or family. So I want to start by, let's just open our hearts, because we're going to be kind of traveling into different spaces and different understandings of decision making that are offering alternative ways of looking at it. So I want the listeners with me tonight to just take a deep breath. That's so magical to do and often something we forget. And breath is just such a connection to source. It's an enlivening way of being with your limitlessness. Breath is your life. It is your light too. So let's take a nice big deep breath and just let go of the stresses of the day and the challenges or obstacles we've faced, and open our hearts and our minds to the wisdom of the universe, to allowing the universe to flow in, and understand that we all have been called. We've been called here tonight, this evening, to receive something very powerful for ourselves, and that our higher self, okay, our higher self actually has guided us here and for a reason, really a reason that we ourselves may not be consciously aware of. And so, deep beneath this, okay, we want to let ourselves just surrender, that we don't need to know exactly what the reason is. It will come during the show, it will pop up, it will just surprise us. And it will move us. So just surrender to the idea that there's something here that I need for myself this evening. And so with that, let's really begin. So decisions, we make them all day long, right? And there is a paradigm we have with them around decision making, especially the big ones, meaning there is a perception. So I want you to get really present too as we are starting to explore this. What are your feelings around big choices? What comes up for you when you think about moving across country, or perhaps quitting your job, or maybe saying yes to the marriage proposal, or saying no? Or what comes up for you when you think about getting a new dog, or adopting a cat, or putting an animal down because they're sick and they're not as healthy and able than they used to be? What comes up for you when thinking about planning your future with your partner, whether that be to have kids or to not? What starts to show up when you start to think about these bigger decisions? Decisions that could and do alter our life trajectory, our path. That's why they're here, right? Each day we're given the opportunity to choose the direction of our highest self, as well as the opposite, the direction of a path of more struggle or suffering. That is a choice that we do have, though many would probably argue with me and say that's not true. but I'm going to present that and offer that to you all to just be able to explore that. So when we think about this, some of the things that I hear you all getting present to is there may be some fear. There may be some scared feelings. Anxiety. There may be a statement of, well, wow, that's just the unknown. And what if I make the wrong choice? And what if I hurt somebody? What if I hurt somebody else? What if this decision, you know, makes them sad or upset? And what will other people think of me? What will they think if I make this choice? I mean, will they think I'm good? Will they think I'm bad? Will they think I'm righteous and selfish or overly competent or narcissistic? What will people think of me? And what will happen to me? So can we hear all of the things that come up as a result of just thinking about making a decision, right? This sounds familiar to you guys, doesn't it? At least for me, that was what would come up for a majority of my bigger decisions. A majority of things that were presented to me in life that often were much bigger than choosing, the apple or the banana, like I said. But here's the thing, this is what I want us to begin to sink into and allow ourselves to explore more deeply. And that is that what if I were to tell you, what if I were to say to you, the stuff that's coming up, the perception that we're seeing right now, the paradigm of decision making, meaning the way that we look at big decisions, this is exactly the sweet stuff. And you might be like, what? What do you mean, Elizabeth? Well, matter of fact, the things that we're hearing, well, this is scary. And what about, what other people will think? And it's the unknown. And how am I going to do it? And what will happen to me? And, what if I hurt them? This is actually sharing with ourselves a lot about where we're at with ourselves. It's actually a doorway. So, this realization of our perception of decisions has now become, not just uncomfortable. Initially, it can be like, oh, wow, I do have that perception. And yeah, that's happened to me. And I don't like thinking about it because it makes me feel funny inside or it doesn't make me feel that good. So we've moved out of that and into helping us see that this is a doorway. This is a doorway into ourselves, into the deeper, more subtle conversation we're having and how it's influencing our life. So it's an opportunity for us to look at how what we're currently thinking is actually manifesting or designing our experience now, right? Why we are in such anxiety, why we are in such fear, why we're unable to take action, why we're not moving in one direction or the other, but completely paralyzed now. We're starting to see that a majority of us have a perception of decision making that follows or that is crafted by a series of really uncomfortable or, not so pleasant feelings, fear, anxiety. I don't know what to do. What will people think of me? What if I hurt them? Those are all things that, yes, when they come up, feel not good. So our reaction or our perception then of something that's been offered to us in a big way by the universe then becomes so scary, so paralyzing, so so unknown. What do we even do? So our perception is now then influencing the way we're responding to the universe. Because the universe is orchestrating our life experiences. It's orchestrating our our entire existence based off of a want to provide us with experiences that will help us learn and grow, that will help us actually develop into the kind of being that we agreed on being before we came here. Well, that's another big concept, right? So just keeping your ears and eyes open and your heart open there. So the universe is offering us stuff to guide us towards who we really want to be, yet we hold a perception of that. And where did we get that perception from? Where might we have molded our ideas of decision making? And there's so many things that could be influencing that. And it could be the way that decisions were made at home. Maybe your mom and dad were, they were more hesitant or cautious with their decision making. And so they would muddle them over or take a lot of time with them, or they were more reserved. And they often then took the responsibility of making choices for you. So maybe you didn't really always have the opportunity to make a choice. Or perhaps you were at a young age really asked to be more of an adult than a child at times, making choices to take care of younger siblings and having to be in an adult role at a young age. And maybe you developed fear around making the wrong choice because of that responsibility. So I'm just running through some examples, but I want you guys to see that the perception comes from our experiences with our past. And it could be even at school. Maybe we were told we made a wrong choice or that our decision making was not right. And therefore, then we were discouraged to actually feel empowered to speak up and decide for ourselves. Whatever it may be, we have a perception, correct? And it's coming from somewhere. And so I want to explore, the one around, well, what if I make the wrong choice? What if I make the wrong choice? And so we're seeing the decision making process for a lot of people out there. And something that comes up is that fear based conversation. So, what will we be inclined to do, right? If we're thinking that our perception really defines our reality, and we are then stating, well, what if I make the wrong choice? So, how long will it take you to make that choice then? So, if you're saying out loud, well, what if I make the wrong choice? We're actually saying to ourselves, I have no idea what I want to do. So, how long will it take for you to decide? And then who will be impacted by that? So, an example, okay, you have two friends that text you or have called you on a Monday, and they said, will you come to dinner with me on Wednesday? And interestingly enough, lucky you, they ask you both to dinner on Wednesday night, right? So you suddenly are like, oh my gosh, like, okay, I don't want to make the wrong choice. I haven't seen either of them in a really long time. And, who do I really want to see? And, oh my gosh, it's so hard for me and so much anxiety. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. And so you tell them on Monday, you tell each of them, I'd really like to see you. Can I let you know by Wednesday morning what's possible for me? So you're creating then a longer time frame for you to make the choice, right? And we think, oh, if I take longer to make this choice, then they'll think I'm really thinking about it and that I really do value them and that I do want to spend time with them, right? Well, now we're leaving two people hanging. We're leaving two people hanging and two people equally thinking we want to spend time with them and that they're important to us. And we've then positioned them in a space where it's Wednesday morning and they are thinking Monday and Tuesday that they possibly have plans with you. And they may be excited to see you. There may be something they want to tell you. So by Wednesday morning, it's go time. And suddenly you make the choice with your eyes squinting and your breath tight. And bam, the text message gets sent out. And you choose one person over the other. And now the one person is left 10 hours away from dinner time with no plans, nothing to do, and disappointed that they won't be able to actually tell you what they've been excited to share with you for 2 days. So, how did your decision making process work for you and the persons you had involved in that decision? You were in a space with yourself for 48 hours where you felt anxious and unsure and all monkey minded and your last past 2 days have been preoccupied over not wanting to hurt either of them. Yet, now one friend is hurt and disappointed. So, did that really help you and them? Was your decision making pro- program or process actually really beneficial for each you and the other people involved? How helpful was it? And did you truly help the other person make a plan that felt better for them? Or did you leave them hanging and then them on a Wednesday not having much to do? So, just getting you present to that example and how our decision making process impacts other people and the pitfalls that we can come or into when we fall back into this programming of this process of looking at decisions as, well, what if I make the wrong choice? And what if I hurt them? So let's go to like a bigger decision. Okay. So the decision arises that you need to decide, your partner is putting pressure on you to either decide to commit to them in a more serious way, so they're talking like marriage. And you guys have been dating for a few years and it's been placed on the table. Either you walk away or you commit to them. I mean, how many times do we hear that kind of story outplay, or that we've heard in, looking closer at people who've been married for like 5, 10, 15 years? And that's something that they share. Like, well, we had, I came to this dramatic point in the relationship where I said, either we're committing or we're not. And so this we see a lot, right? And so let's say you're in this space and all of a sudden this, it becomes so unknown what could happen next for you, right? So we're hopping into that perception of making a choice is stepping into the unknown, right? I don't know what's going to happen. And this is now scary now. It's so I don't know. I have no idea. Should I marry him? Sometimes I think I should, or is she the right one, or is there somebody else out there? And you know, what will happen? What will my life look like if I marry them? Like what the unknown is so big at this point. So you're getting triggered and all these monkey-minded things are coming up, and suddenly you say to this partner, well, can I have like couple months to think about this. Like, what, please don't pressure me right now. Like, I don't want to have this pressure. Why can't things be easy? Let's, just give me 3 months. I'll give you the answer at the end of 3 months, right? So suddenly now we've given them a timeline. We haven't given them a definitive answer. We've been indecisive here, right? Oh, that's a word I haven't used yet, but that's exactly what I'm talking about, right? Indecisive. So, this indecisiveness now is presenting in itself based off of the perception of, like, oh my gosh, the unknown. It's so scary. and lots of feelings come up, lots of stuff. And so now we're traveling through the next 3 months, and we're with our partner. And throughout it, we're constantly halfway in and we're halfway out. And we're observing them in one way and in another. And the partner is on the other end now receiving somebody who's somewhat with them, but not all the way 100%, and who is hoping that they might stay with them, perhaps because they love and care for them. So they're still building a dream in life and future with you. And yet you're 1 foot out and 1 foot in. And so by the time the 3 months comes around and you make your choice, it has become this huge, big thing you finally have to do. And it becomes so dramatic, right? Suddenly you have to tell them whether or not you're going to get married to them. And so all of these feelings start to come up. And can we clearly make a choice that actually feels right for us with all of this emotion? So we say yes. And then 10 years down the line, we realize, I don't want to be with them anymore. I want to get a divorce. And so now, how has our decision making process impacted them? Did we truly help them? I mean, giving them that deadline, giving them that space, giving ourselves that time, giving us this opportunity to think about it. Did in the long run, did we actually get to find an honest, clear, straight answer with ourselves and understand the feelings that we were experiencing in those moments? Or did we let our perception of decision making just completely now really keep us in a space where things are cloudy, things are uncertain, things are, scary, things are not what they appear and can be? In the perception of, if we choose, that we are light beings and always supported and always loved by the universe, and that perhaps choices arise in our life as opportunities for us to really head in the path of our highest self. And so it brings me to my own journey with decision making, my own experience with it. And I share this because it's highlights what I think many of you have, been through yourself. And it piggybacks on the story, the example that I just gave you. I dated someone for about 4 years, and the relationship began in early 2013. Um, and I knew very quickly, that I had very deep and intense feelings for this individual. But marked with these very deep and intense feelings were behaviors that at the time were concerning for me in terms of their real commitment and ability to be with me. Yet each time something popped up, a behavior or a red flag, we'll call it, I made the choice to continue to stay. Because each time one of these red flags would come up, and that may have been, not answering my calls for a few days, or kind of falling off the map for a weekend, or, maybe sharing with me that they were not ready for a committed relationship. And yet their actions were different, wanting to spend time with me and wanting to get to know me better. But I couldn't make the decision to leave them. I would be faced. I was just in such terror of what will happen to me. I've never met someone like who brings these feelings up for me, and the intensity of them, and who will really love me like this, and how will I ever meet someone like this again? And what would it be like? I'd have to start all over. And I'm at a certain age that's not possible. So all of these things started to come up, and all of them started to actually create so much chaos in my mind. And it got to the point where I was just paralyzed at times about making a choice, even though my heart, my soul said, is this healthy for you? Is this right for you? Is this how you can imagine the rest of your life? And I'd push that deeper down inside. I'd drink that down. I'd eat that down. I would shop that down. I didn't want to face what was coming up in those times where the universe was offering me a different path, a choice that I could make. And instead, my old paradigm, my perception that the unknown was scary and what will happen if I tell them I don't want to be with them and how much pain they might be in, despite how much pain they had caused me. And yet I let that control me, I let it limit me. And so I stayed in a limiting space with myself in a real relationship that meant tremendously a lot to me, but that ultimately was not healthy for me. And so it overtook me. My well being became, affected. I was struggling a lot with my weight and, handling my jobs and, making sure that I could show up for people. I was going out a whole lot more. I was drinking a whole lot more. And it impacted my family. They were continually seeing me in a space where I was unhappy, I was sad, I wasn't myself. There wasn't the light that had always been within me shining as brightly. So, my indecisiveness, my inability to actually be straight with myself, to be honest with myself, to be real with myself, held me in a place that I actually suffered and endured more pain, more suffering. And as a result, the partner in my life at the time equally went through the same up and down, the same tumultuous cycle. We did it with each other. Neither of us could decide really to let go. So we, for 4 years, were in a space of a lot of pain perpetually. Some good, a lot, there were good, but then it was always mixed with a down. It was never a continuous, really harmonious and balanced relationship. So my inability to decide kept him in a space where he was more hurt, where he was actually spending time and being with me, even though I was unsure, and vice versa. And that indecision actually hurt my family. They were in pain seeing me in suffering, and they wanted something different for me. And it was a really difficult time. And even in his family, they wanted me to be a part of it. And it was so hard for them to see us not be able to make a real strong, steady choice. And so we hurt them too. So the point is that I got to a place, I finally got to a place where I started to have to ask a real question. Is this really the right relationship for me? And where do I want to go in my life? What do I want? And it led me to work with my teacher. And when I started to work with him, he just had this beautiful way of actually helping me get clear with first who I know I am, who I am innately, and then based off of those truths, what I deserve. And so it became clear for me how decisions could be quick and swift and easy once I got clear with who I was and what I deserved and what my values were. So after that, my paradigm of decisions actually shifted, and I became more inclined to believe decisions were easy. They were helpful. They were designed by the universe to serve as opportunities to follow the path of our higher self. And they were gateways into propelling others into their own life's journey, into their own soul's path of higher growth in self. Because keeping people in an indecisive space actually keeps both you and them stuck. So nobody's learning, nobody's growing. And when I saw that, I was like, whoa, I don't want to help people that way. That's not even helping them. So my perception again became decisions are easy to make. They help not only me but other souls around me. And it's so helpful to be clear and straight and honest with people up front because that means I'm being straight and honest and clear up front with myself. And when I'm with that with myself, then my path becomes accelerated and I start making the choices that lead me down the path that's most fulfilling and purposeful for me. So, what I want to offer you guys today is that there is another paradigm waiting for you around decisions, especially the bigger ones. There's a paradigm waiting for you that comes once you've gotten to the bottom of why you react to big choices the way that you do. That I had recognized there was a deep fear in myself of being alone, of being afraid I wouldn't be loved. And yet today I stand so powerfully that I am unconditionally loved every moment of my life, awake or asleep, by the universe. That it's okay. That if everybody else on the planet disappeared and I was the only one left, I'd still be loved. So you have to ask yourself if you're ready to explore those parts of yourself, if you're ready to dive deep, do a deep dive into those spaces. And I invite you to check me out at nourish-the-soul.nyc because I know that quite a bit has come up for you. I know that you're looking now at your decision making process, and I want you to take action to work with me so that we can together get you in a space where you're making choices that are in the path of your highest good. Because damn, does that feel good? It feels awesome. You feel alive and you start to really, really, really align with your truths and who you are, and life becomes like a candy land. Not a lot of suffering, not a lot of obstacles. So if that's the life that you're looking to design for yourself, visit nourishthesoul.nyc. I'd love to work with you. I'd love to have a conversation with you. Click on the services and packages page. And if you're one of those game changers out there and you want to design your life, talk to me about my Living Life by Design program. We'll set up a 45-minute free discovery and design session. You can find out all the information at nourishthesoul.nyc. And so tonight, guys, I'm going to leave you with these words, love and light. This is Elizabeth Tripp signing